Welcome to COS Indiana Live. There's never been a more important time in our history than now if you believe it's time to stand up and be free. Stay tuned and come back every Monday at 7 p.m. as our state director and host, Dale Parrish, present the need for self-governance. Our COS Indiana vision statement is to build a grassroots community of Hoosier citizens and legislators dedicated to the constitutional concept of self-governance. So, take it away, Dale.
Well, thank you, Maringo Mike, for that introduction, and welcome everyone. My name is Dale Parrish. I am the State Director for Convention of States here in Indiana. We have a great broadcast lined up for you this evening. I say that before every broadcast because every broadcast is great. So that's what I like to think, at least. And we do have a good one for you tonight. Now, before we get started, I want to once again remind everyone that we are, in addition to broadcasting to you through our state Facebook page, Convention of States Indiana, we are also live streaming our broadcast through our YouTube channel, COS Indiana. So if any of you perhaps know people that would like to tune in but don't utilize Facebook, this is the other alternative you have, and that is to go to our YouTube channel, COS Indiana, and you can catch then the live stream that's going on right now on our YouTube channel. I would like to go through with you the various segments of our broadcast so you have an idea of what to expect this evening. The very first segment will be our topic of discussion. Now, in this segment, we sometimes, in fact, do have a topic that we discuss, have a panel discussion. As a matter of fact, we're going to do that on our next broadcast, but I'll give you that information a little later on. We also very frequently like to bring on leadership individuals from our group here in Indiana and introduce those individuals to you, give you an idea of what their roles are in our organization and how they are exhibiting their constitutional right to self-governance. Just like Maringo Mike said, we focus a great deal on self-governance here in Indiana. So yes, Convention of States is very important in what we're trying to achieve there, but so is self-governance, and that includes involvement not only at the federal level, but the state level, community level, city level, county level. So that's something very, very important to us. Anyway, we'll bring on individuals in leadership roles here in Indiana. We'll also from time to time bring on a leadership individual from our national group. And then other times we bring on individuals from groups outside of Convention of States. And that is what we have this evening. And I'll introduce this gentleman to you very, very shortly. But this gentleman represents a group that I think we are very familiar with, or we are very like-minded group. So we wanted to bring him on and have him explain to everyone what his group is all about. So that's what will be in the very first segment. Our second segment is what I call the informational segment. I'll bring up my PowerPoint presentation and we'll go through, inform you and let you know of the resources that we have available to us here in Indiana. And we'll have a few numbers as to how our state is performing, and we're doing very well, I might say. So that'll be the informational segment. The third segment then will be viewer recognition, and I'll do my best to recognize those of you that have tuned in this evening. If you are a viewer, feel free to make a comment or ask a question in the chat section. Like I said, I'll do my very best to bring that up on the screen and try to address that as best we can. So that'll be in the viewer recognition segment. The final segment of our broadcast is what I call the invitation. in this segment, we'll kind of wrap things up. I'll let you know what we're going to be covering in our next broadcast, and then invite you to join Convention of States here in Indiana. And we'll go through the steps that we would like for you to take to join us. And I want to talk about, about why it's so important to have you involved in what we're trying to do here in the state of Indiana. So those are the segments of our broadcast. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in this young man as our guest this evening. And this is Mr. Craig Ladwig. Hi, Craig.
Thank you so much.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you this evening.
Well, we're embarrassed to be in the same town and all parallel organizations, and we finally have gotten together. Looking forward to it.
All righty, Craig. I know the main organization that you represent is called Indiana Policy Review. Tell us about what Indiana Policy Review is all about.
Formed 30 years ago. Our first president was Mike Pence. We're pretty much right on target with what you're trying to do. We've focused on local governments, individual rights, equal opportunities. One of our mission statements, I just want to point out that we've had for those 3 decades is equality of opportunity is sacrificed with equality of results. Just sort of fitting into the issues now more than it has in many years. It was at an Indiana Policy Review meeting that some of us first raised the thought that nowhere in Indiana do we see a city council that's even vaguely free market. And that disturbed us, as it should. Then we started talking to people about what we should do about this, and we came up with a strategy not unlike your strategy, which is local governance. How do we get it? How do we pursue it? One of the most, I think, important insights was that our strategy should be different than the Democrat strategy. The Democratic strategy works very well for them, which is get in office by any means necessary, stay in office by any means necessary. That's what, so you can reward people by being in office. And we looked at the state GOP and we thought, well, they're using the same strategy, but they have different goals. So let's think about what other strategies we could have. And pretty quickly we came up with a strategy. In our 30 years, we've seen many good candidates rise up on their own, pretty much, get elected to a city council. Great instincts, some very knowledgeable. But what happens, Dale, is one of two things. One is they either, first place, they find they only have 1 or 2 votes on the council for the things that are important to them. Then they try to compromise a little bit, thinking, well, this is a democracy. I'll change a little bit. The other side will change a little bit. And we'll make some progress. But of course, the other side doesn't change a little bit, and they end up with 2 votes instead of 1 vote. And this goes on for a while, and they either get co-opted and say, well, you got to do what you can do. I'll vote for. I'll just have to put some of my principles behind me. Or they just quit. And this is a resource. These people are not easy to find. To lose one of them is they're precious. They're democratic. So
okay, let's back up here just a little bit. The program that we're talking about here is the Footholds program, right?
Exactly.
Right. This is helping put people in place that have this kind of conservative, this kind of.
I think our first job is to preserve the ones we have in place, because they're the ones that are at risk of getting discouraged, getting co-opted, giving up. And And we went to some of our members who have been successful, even though they had one or two votes, in changing the public discussion or even the trajectory, and asked them, how did you do it? And I guess these are our mentors, but they gave us a pretty good outline of what you do to create a good, let's call it a good foothold experience. But
Okay, that's what we mean by the strategy then?
right.
Okay.
And we've found that when we can get to them early and talk to them and have them talk to people who have been successful, they see the point that you can't just, numbers on city council aren't going to help you any, because you'll just get outvoted, and you've wasted your time. But if you use that, and we'll maybe get to this later, if you use that city council seat as a platform to ask questions, informed questions, you can make a change. We've got some great examples. I don't know if you're ready to get into it right now, but recently,
well, hold on. Now, I want people to understand, and if anyone is a Convention of State supporter watching this broadcast, if you've had any desire perhaps to run for city council in your particular area, this is a program. These people can help you. These can Craig and his group can help you achieve what you're trying to do. And as long as you're a limited government type of individual, they want to help you. They are there to help you with the Footholds program. Okay,
exactly.
I just want to make sure our viewers understand what you're offering up here. So and he's going to give you some examples here of how this works, and I've seen it work, folks. So this is really a good program if you have any desire to run for elected office in city council. I'm sorry, Craig, go ahead.
No, and couldn't have said that better. But and what we also find is that everybody who gets themselves or wants to run for office that's of a limited government background, they all have expertise in certain areas. They may not think they have expertise, but we want them to focus on their expertise, things they already know, not spend 4 years trying to learn how the government does it. And a perfect example was Jason Arp in Fort Wayne, who is an ex-banker on a national level, and he understands what banking and bonding and all that stuff the rest of us would take 5 years to even get conversant in. And when they put this electric works in front of him, he understood exactly what that was and started telling people.
Now, folks, if you're not from this area, from the Fort Wayne area, this is a huge project.
$280 million.
$180 million.
There's almost
the old General Electric facility here in Fort Wayne.
There's one in every town. There's a similar thing in every town. They just have different rationales, but but he was able to use his council platform. The newspaper, Dale, you know this. The newspaper never printed anything he said. He got no support from the local county Republican Party. Everybody was against him because everybody wanted to, have a piece of this pie that was this $280 million. They dismissed even his most factual information. He got the developers on the city council meeting and had them on the record saying things. Newspaper didn't cover it. Nonetheless, the truth really gets out. And in this case, it was almost word of mouth for 3 years. And they finally just cut the knees right out from underneath it because it never did make any sense. They didn't ever have any actual real private investment. It was all the boondoggle is exactly the right word, but that's what they're doing now all over the state. And we were lucky to have somebody who could articulate it, and their position was untenable And when we had put the right person asking them questions, things happened, even without anybody else's cooperation. Just one guy asking pointed questions. We've seen the same thing happen to Terre Haute, Carmel. You go down, they're not getting any support from anybody. They're just single principled people educating themselves on a specific topic and addressing questions to an untenable official position. And we've kind of settled on that as pretty effective strategy, and it's doable. We don't have to raise, millions and millions of dollars. You have to have a council. You have to have a council candidate who's willing to knock on a lot of doors, and they'll tell you exactly how many doors you have to knock on. But if you knock on all those doors and you educate yourself to ask pointed questions, you won't need any votes on council. You will make a difference. Maybe we wind up with that later, but that was what was exciting to me, was after 30 years of watching, people get mired in the mud of a city council debate, we finally started seeing people really change things. And so we've had 4 meetings. We try to get people, not unlike you and your audience. Our first step is we just want them to know each other. And that does a lot of good, because a lot of these people think they're all alone out there. And they find somebody in the next town's doing the same exact thing, having the same exact problems. It's a big help.
I think that's fantastic. Well, we're about out of time. Let's jump to, I know you wanted to wrap this up because you really think this is making a difference. And so you want to kind of wrap it up there?
I think the thing for us to remember is that, and I think the Convention of States has proved this in other ways, we don't really need the numbers. We don't need to play the game with you can't do that till you've raised $5 million. You can start in right away, and anywhere you sit. And it's, I don't know I forget how many doors you've got to knock on, but the interesting advantage we have is the other side doesn't like to knock on doors. People argue with you, and it's what we found is we send a candidate out there knocking on doors, and the more doors he knocks on, the more refined his campaign becomes. He learns from these people, talking to them, what they understand, what they don't understand, and by the end of the campaign, this guy's an expert. And they just perform wonderfully. And as you know, there are a lot of good people still out there. It's just we need to make them. We can't afford to lose any of them. We need to make them as effective as we can make them. I look forward to working with you guys too.
All right. Sounds good, Craig. Any Convention of States supporter out there that's viewing this, if you would like to contact Craig, get in touch with me. I'll give you his contact information, and we'll get you hooked up here. So I think this is a wonderful program, and I think if any of you are exhibiting exercising your right to self-governance, and you need some help, this is an excellent program to make use of. So, Craig, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Dale.
Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, we'll get him off of there, and we'll go back, and we'll now bring up our next segment. Whoops. Didn't mean to bring him back on there. We'll go into our next segment here with in the informational segment, and let me bring up my PowerPoint. Now, I also like to make sure that you get a good view of the PowerPoint, so I will implement the slideshow option. I always seem to have a little problem getting this started here sometimes, but we'll keep working on it here. That should do it right there. So now you should have a good view of each of my slides. Let's get started then. Once again, our Indiana vision statement is to build a Hoosier grassroots community of citizens and legislators dedicated to the constitutional concept of self-governance. As we've stated, that's one of the areas, that's the area that we're trying to focus on now, is self-governance. Our mission objectives here in Indiana. If we accomplish these mission objectives in 2020, then that will bring us closer to realizing our vision statement. And that is the first objective is to meet with all of our state legislators, the assigned ones, as well as what we call targeted legislators. These would be primarily new legislators that who we don't know where they stand with regard to supporting Convention of States. So we want to make contact with them and, of course, get their support. The second objective is to grow our grassroots to 52,000 supporters. Now, I'll give you a little more information when we get into the numbers on this. We're well on track to realizing this goal here in 2020. So more information to come on this. All right. Some resources then that we have available to us here in Indiana. The main resource is our national website, conventionofstates.com. This is the first place you should go if you want to get involved in Convention of States. This is the first step to take. Go to conventionofstates.com, open an account, sign the petition, and bingo, you have become a supporter. So that's a very, very important first step. A little bit more on that a little later. Now, embedded in the national website is our state website page, conventionofstates.com/Indiana. Of course, a more focused look on our state. Social media platforms. Facebook is our main platform. Like we said, this broadcast is coming to you through our state Facebook page, Convention of States Indiana. Also, our YouTube channel, COS Indiana. As we mentioned earlier, we're live streaming the broadcast through this YouTube channel. But also on this YouTube channel, it's a very much an educational resource for everyone. We have narrated PowerPoint presentations, we have recordings of our broadcasts, and we have links there to a podcast that our legislative liaison, Paul Phillips, does. The podcast is called The Free to Be Free. Excellent, excellent podcast. And so whenever Paul generates a podcast, we put a link on our YouTube channel to that podcast. So I would encourage you to check those out. They're very, very good. Now, other platforms that we're on, Twitter, #COS Indiana, Instagram, LinkedIn, and other platforms. So if you're into social media, you should not have any problem finding us out there. Some quick numbers. In 2019, we surpassed 41,000 supporters here in the state of Indiana. Been growing at a tremendous rate. So we set a goal in 2020 of 52,000 supporters. In our most recent state video conference call, I announced that in the month of August, we surpassed 49,000 supporters. So we are well on track to reaching our goal of 52,000. And I'll tell you right now, we're already looking at 2021, and we're already looking at setting a even higher goal in 2021. So very, very good results as far as supporters. Now, in our leadership group here in Indiana, we have about 80 individuals in various leadership roles. These are different roles, district captains, region captains, other types of positions. So we have about 80 people involved in leadership roles here in the state. Now, if you want to get involved in Convention of States, I would encourage you just becoming a supporter. Go to our national website, conventionofstates.com, and open an account, sign the petition, and you become then a supporter of Convention of States. Now, if you would like to get more involved in Convention of States, then click on the menu selection, Take Action, scroll down to where it says Become a Leader. Look at the different volunteer positions that we have available. If one's of interest to you, open it up, read about it. If you're very interested in, go ahead and make application. You're not obligated in any way. But what that does is then your name comes up on a report that I see every day, as well as a few others, and one of us then will be in contact with you to further discuss your interest. Now, I want to stress, please, when you look at these different volunteer positions, be sure to take note of the estimated time commitment involved in those. Some of these positions require very little time. Obviously, others require much more time. So you're the only one that knows how much time you can commit week in and week out to one of these positions. So please take note of that. Be sure you look at that. Convention of States basics. We won't get into details on this tonight. These are the three tenets that our Convention of States program, nationally as well as here in Indiana, are based upon. And that's the problem, the solution, and the plan. I stress that you go once again to our national website, conventionofstates.com, click on the menu selection, Resources, and there you will find a wealth of information explaining these very basics. Now, the problem, we've identified the abuses by the federal government, 3 abuses that we've identified as the problem. The solution, of course, is holding a convention of states for the purpose of proposing amendments to the Constitution that would address those abuses. And then the final tenet, of course, is our plan to make this happen. So once again, encourage you, go to conventionofstates.com, click on the menu selection, Resources, and educate yourself on the convention, the basics of Convention of States. All right, let's go back here then to our screen where I'm at, and let's see, this would be the section where we recognize viewers. I don't see that we have any this evening, so we will move on then to the final segment, which is the invitation segment. And I want to tell you what we have planned for our next broadcast. Now, we're going to take Labor Day off, so we will not be broadcasting next Monday evening, September 7th. Our next broadcast will, in fact, be September 14th. Now, this is going to be a panel discussion. We have just completed our strategy meeting for 2021, and I want to dedicate this broadcast on the 14th. I want to dedicate that broadcast to giving you the highlights of our strategy meeting and share with you those goals and objectives that we have set forth for 2021. So I hope you will enjoy that. We've got some exciting things lined up, and we're in the process now of kind of honing what we've come up with. So hopefully by the 14th, we'll have things sorted out where we can share those items with you. So make note of that. No broadcast on September 7th, Labor Day. The next broadcast will be September 14th on Monday at 7 p.m. Well, finally, I want to mention, as I normally do when I close out a broadcast, our president, Mark Meckler, stated this so well that, you know, there's a fundamental question facing our country today, and that is, and the question is not, I should say, what should we do? The question is, who decides? And we in Convention of States, we believe we, the people, should be making these decisions. And folks, I think when you look around at what's going on in our country today, I think it makes more and more sense that we should have more and more decisions being made not in Washington, D.C., but more and more decisions made here at the local level and at the state, county, city level, community level. And those decisions should be made more and more by we, the people, and not one group making all the decisions out of a central location. So it's not what should we do? The question is who decides? And we in Convention of States, we firmly believe we, the people, should be making these decisions. With that, folks, I'll wrap it up for this evening. Thank you for joining us on COS Indiana Live. Look forward to seeing you at our next broadcast. Once again, we will not be broadcasting on September 7th on Labor Day. Our next broadcast will be September 14th. With that, I'll say good night and have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.